Okay, y'all. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Let me check if y'all can hear me. So we originally was supposed to do this on Instagram Live for some. Let's see if I can. For some. Okay, great. Y'all can hear me. I have my headphones in. So we originally was supposed to do this on IG Live regarding a lot of the violence that's been happening against women. And I was going to circle that back into how this deals with like the new moon in Aries. So first of all, thank y'all for coming from IG over to YouTube. IG still is not letting me go live. So let me know. Let me know. Um if you're coming over from there. And like I said, let me know if you hear me or not. So I really oh that was interesting what just came up. So feel free to jump in the chat, yap, whatever. The great stellium, the great Aries stellium that's happening right now has not happened since ooh, maybe the 200s AD, maybe, right? I think that's the latest earliest I can think of. And so what we mean by stellium, there's more than 3 planets in one sign, right? When we talk about stelliums in the personal chart, we talk about the personal planets, sun, moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury. But we literally have 7 planets, and 7 things, actually more than 7, according to what all you add as well to see things. So I want to name off. I'm going to name off all the planets, all the things that are in Aries right now. Sun, the asteroid Chiron, the asteroid Aries. It stays in Aries mostly. The moon, because early in the morning, around 6:30 ish a.m. Central Standard Time, there's is the new moon is exact. We have Saturn, Mars, Neptune, and Mercury, all in Aries. All in Aries. And I tell people, I say the only thing that's saving us is Venus is in Taurus. And we can't say that Uranus in Taurus is saving us because it's at the final degree, which is being our asses. But what I want to talk about with this Aries stellium is how all of this has been interacting with Jupiter. Well, I play around with Jupiter. I call it pretty boy Jupiter. And Big Jupe is in a sign that it likes to be in. It likes to give most of its blessings in. They call Jupiter the big benefactor. Jupiter in Cancer, talked about in Astro Negro podcast, talks about, this blessing of community. But we also talked about how Jupiter expands anything. That's the good, bad, and the ugly. And that is what we're experiencing now with the Aries stellium. Now, the Aries stellium, Aries is all about leadership and innovation as well, along with Aquarius. Aquarius is about innovation as well, but Aries is about leadership, doing things sometimes without thinking, so impulsivity, but also being able to handle chaos. It's ruled by Mars. So Mars is at home in Aries right now. But with all this energy in one sign causes the sign or the planets to act in the worst possible way of that sign. There's a spectrum when we talk about zodiac personalities and what they are. We got to remember, if the planets are and the planets and the asteroids are characters acting like whatever sign they're in, when all of them get together in one sign, it's on their worst behavior. So all these planets, 7, including asteroids, are in Aries being on their worst behavior. Sometimes this could be great if we need like change, but with the current global platform, this is horrible, right? Mars and Aries, when we think about Mars, we think about masculine energy, right? Cool, right? This could be like really great, but like I said, everybody's on their worst freaking behavior. Not only have we had more violence against women in the past week, but we also have had on a global scale this because we have to tread lightly when we're live. um hey, hopefully more people will come over, and once they realize like I can't be on IG blocked me from going live. Now yesterday I was sliding in, today not so much. But this can be fine. But with the what I was saying, the in the past week, we've seen at least 3 or 4 um unalivings of women due to their partner violence, right? Um Venus currently is in Taurus and it's not interacting truly with anything. Let me see. Venus is, when I say Venus is not interacting with anything, I mean it. So Venus is not here to save us. Venus, the planet over femininity, cannot save us because Venus is also war. People think Mars is just war, but Venus is also war. Venus is the planet that we cannot get our technology to land on and see what's going on that planet. It burns it up. It burns all of our rovers from NASA up. Even other countries who have their own, the International Space Station, we can't touch Venus. So think, when we start thinking about the archetypes of the planets, think also of their physical capabilities. Mars, we can touch ground. Oh, it's red. Yeah. Ooh. But Venus, we can't even touch her. So if she represents the feminine archetype, think about how she also is in regards to war. So when I say we don't even have Venus to help us out in this Aries stellium, she's in Taurus. I mean that she's not interacting with any of the asteroids or any other planet. She just coasting in Taurus right now. But the rest of the planets, not only are they on their worst behavior, while in Aries, since they're all together in Aries, all this energy having to bounce around, we have Jupiter in Cancer, the great benefactor that expands anything that it touch, whether good, bad, and ugly. It's supposed to be helping us with community. But in an earlier podcast episode, maybe November, when we saw Jupiter in Cancer interacted with Chiron, the wounded healer that talks about past wounds that you need to heal, we had children unaliving their parents and grandparents. We saw it with a celebrity who did that. We saw it some other times. Now, Jupiter, I would say maybe a week or so ago, as Mercury went into Aries to join in the great stellium that we have not seen since like the 200s. I think it's the 200s. Jupiter, I drew a picture to kind of so people can understand what this looks like in the sky or what it would look like in the natal chart. Jupiter started to interact this with this whole stellium. So think about the past like 2-3 weeks when we saw an increase in violence. Then the past week or two, we saw an increase in violence against women. Why? Venus not there, right? Jupiter is in Cancer, where it's exalted. Cancer talks about motherhood, the femininity, the mothering, the good and the bad, the warlike side of it. Cancer's ruled by the moon. We're about to have a new moon in Aries. You see how I'm starting to connect everything. We have Jupiter interacting with Aries, amplifying the chaos. If we're not using the Aries stellium for good and to readjust power, because people think Saturn and Aries is a readjustment, like this reckoning that happens on unchecked power. But Saturn and Aries says you got to check yourself, right? So if we are not actively, or the masculine, trans, cis, whatever, non-binary masks are not checking themselves, we have unchecked energy that goes violent. So about 2 weeks ago, as Mercury went to Aries, this is what it literally looked like in the sky. I In a chart, when you see red in a chart, we know there's a strain, a power dynamic that's happening. It's either opposition, or sextiles can also be very, very harsh, right? Because if it's in a negative position, sextiles is helping that negativity. This is a picture of what's happening. This is big Jupiter. We get the Sun, Chiron, Saturn, Mars. Oh Lord, I forgot Neptune and Mercury. 2 weeks ago was starting this emotion. It was squaring, it was sextiling, and square mean like literally fight. Opposition is a power dynamic, push and pull that was happening. And so we have all this energy. Is Jupiter in Cancer supposed to be expanding the thought of community, expanding the thought of care, of women and children, but now it has to have this big strain and has to, or and is amplifying with strain, this commotion that's happening in Aries that is leaning towards negative, because MFers don't want to deal with their problems. Chiron in Aries says you must deal with your untapped toxic, or your actually probably your tapped toxic masculinity. Chiron has been in Aries for like the past 70 years. Think about the past 7 years, how much we have talked about the violence that is exhibited by masculine figures, masculine presenting or masculine born male people, right? Think about how much of that toxic masculinity has been perpetuated as well. And so, right now, in particular, what has been interesting to me is not just war and them against each other, it's specifically against women. And what I don't like as a Black woman, so I'm going to come from a position as a Black woman, a Black American woman, ethnic and racially, is now I'm seeing more, it's not random acts of violence. Now we do see on a global scale. This is where like the big planets Uranus, not Uranus, but Neptune comes into play. Societal planets, because Uranus is in Taurus. Now Uranus in Taurus at the 29th degree makes us look at where are we putting our money at societally. So think about what just came out about the global grape society of men married and single learning how to grape their partners through this academy that has at least 60 million people or 60 million accounts and hits per month. That is bigger than most social media sites. Let's put that into perspective. That's more hits than most, or more accounts than most social media sites. Right. That's on a global scale. But then now we have what now has happened to where now there's more domestic violence of unaliving your partner, and some of them have been in front of children. And it has mostly, what has been getting the limelight is Black men doing this to Black women. Now we do know this is the real facts. My background is in public health. I'm a critical public health scholar. So I look at this from an intersectional lens. Everything that I do, intersectional lens. Black women are less likely to call police on their partners due to the fact that we know about police brutality, the criminal justice system, or just the prison to plantation pipeline. Okay. But when we do, it gets documented more than those um, than those who are white non-Hispanic women also most definitely get unalived by their partners more than Black women. It's just not as documented as such as much. No one should stand for that. um, no one should stand for that. Now, what worries me now there's been this ongoing thing in the astrology community, especially amongst Black and brown folks, of if planets were to represent a racial group, an ethnic group, what planet would be over Black folk? And a lot of no people and things. Some people say Neptune. Neptune is over spirituality and glamour and so much more. Neptune also co-rules viruses with Mars. Some people think Venus, and some people think Uranus, the planet of revolution, because so many people of the African diaspora have started so many liberation movements. And even current liberation movements are connected to the Western African diaspora. Cool. Why do I say all this? Why do I bring that up? Because of what's the current limelight of the violence, the interpersonal domestic violence is happening amongst women, and a lot of times, like what I just said, in front of their children, Jupiter and Cancer children. You can't talk about community without talking about children. There's no community without kids, point blank, period. There's no future without them, too, you know? And so, why do I say this? Because this is how the stars look now in the sky. Jupiter, this is right here. This is the asteroid Eros. Eros, love, right? Communal, romantic, familial love. Jupiter is no longer having true interactions with Aries right now, with the Aries stellium, but we still feel big Jupe, right? Because Eros and Jupiter are next to each other. They're not necessarily interacting and playing like conjunct each other, right? Like butting up to fight against Aries, like the Aries stellium. They're not doing the Jupiter is still a little bit apart from Eros. But Jupiter, right here, is in 17 degrees. 17 degrees is a Leo placement. It's what we call the fame degree. So 17 degrees, Jupiter's at 17 degrees. The fame degree. It highlights, so that's why we're seeing so much of a highlight. We're seeing so much of a highlight of all this domestic violence on the television. Jupiter is still trying to, pretty boy Jupiter is still trying to help us out in highlighting these problems, because it just, interacted with Eros, but Eros is the one right now hitting. Sorry, I had to say bye to my mom. Now hitting negatively all these things, right? Eros, the asteroid of love, is now exemplifying this and highlighting, along with Jupiter, highlighting this domestic violence, and is interacting with Neptune, which a lot of people guessed if we were going to say the planets govern. I think I wrote it down wrong. Girl, I think I wrote down Uranus versus Neptune. But anyways, Neptune. Neptune is interacting with Neptune. That a lot of people want to say rules over Blackness, the diaspora, right? It's also still interacting with Chiron, the wounded healer, which says like you must deal with your past traumas. So think about how it's coming out, the stories of these women who are dealing with partners that have had past problems with them, but did not know how to resolve it themselves. So they went towards violence. The sun also illuminates these things as well. And now people are like, what should we be doing? Well, you should have been pew-pewing them. And if you feel like you can't do that, there is a reason why. Now I'm gonna cut on my hoodoo lens before we wrap this all back up into the new moon in Aries of what we could and should be doing. It's a reason why in my faith, in the ethno religion of hoodoo, that we have this thing called left hand work. It's protection, it's hexing, it's jinxing, and it's you can get if you must, right? People think karma is a balance, right? A balance of things. And a lot of things, the negative things that get demonized about the African diasporic religions or traditional religions is to set things straight. Things like this. And I think at this point, my personal experience, okay, dealing with past traumas, yeah, the Chiron and Aries that you must deal with your toxic masculinity. You must deal with your misogyny. You must deal with your misogynoir. Like you have to deal with these things. Chiron is about to go into Taurus. It's gonna hit you so quick in your stability if you ain't dealt with some things. It's crazy. Over in the month of May, I'm just gonna be like posting snippets from the podcast. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Y'all are even getting like true like new content. I'll be like, listen, it's time for y'all to really lock in. But there's a purpose for left hand work, and the time like this is the purpose of it. It's the purpose. Like there's I think about like so much that we've lost as people of the diaspora, that we've lost like our men folk, the foundational protectors, right? But not protecting as in like to their detriment, protection in the balance of things. We have so much to unlearn about balance and masculinity and femininity when it's just like there's not really a difference in them. It's just like how they have to move on this earth. But I want us to understand it's a reason why there are workers like me, right? My sister just told me of a story about a girl in proximity to us who was just beat so bad by her partner because she told him that he couldn't live in her house. I was like, you need to keep on. Now, I am not merciful. I am not spirit, so I don't really deal with the pew pew. I think that's merciful. I don't believe in it. If you do too much, you deserve a slow, right, of something that you don't get the privilege of going to the afterlife. Enjoy. You don't get that privilege messing with somebody like me. So I understand why people are hesitant to come to somebody like me. But people like me have a purpose. Okay. Those of us who are left-hand workers, I'm two-head, so I could do either or. But my first initiations and the ones that stacked is to help protect and rebalance. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down. Okay. But I think for me, and earlier I was talking to Liz Flo, we missed it. We missed it at first. Like we talk about Jupiter and Cancer, the downfalls and the downfalls was having in the moment, but we were not looking so far ahead of which we most times we won't be able to, because everybody is experiencing these things at the same time. History can only tell us so much because only a certain amount of history has been preserved. And so now we're in the stage of everybody can preserve history. Everybody can preserve history right now. We need to be writing down the misfalls, the wins, the whatever. And so in the future, we can continue to improve. Even now with uh, the crumblings of modern society, which is these crumblings is what we want. We want white supremacy, misogyny, patriarchy to crumble. But we have to catch like we have to catch the good things and also learn from these bad things. So this new moon in Aries, what can we do? I talked about shifting the power back. Somebody was just asking, I have to check with my spookies, my spirit team. Um, are there certain rituals, certain things that we can do for those women who do not want to be attached spiritually to the people that unalive them in the physical? Can we do something in a spiritual sense to detach their spirits from that? I have to ask that myself, but automatically, it when we talk about elevation rituals, if I did an elevation, oh my God, is it almost 2 years now? That was quick. Last time I did an ancestral elevation, we did for 7 days. And one of those days, I had to focus on those who, I had to focus on those who died from violence, right? That requires a certain type of elevation. So if you don't have something that you are doing for the new moon, as in like new energy towards X, Y, and Z for you to lead or whatever, I would ask of you to light a candle for these souls who have died from domestic violence. I ask that you say a prayer for them. You ask Spirit, you ask to help elevate them, maybe pour some libations, flowers, something, send a prayer. There's official rituals. I didn't think we would need them as much as we do now. Because yes, we're in the thick of it, but we still have to deal with Saturn and Aries for the next 2 years. And we don't know how that would look with so many masculine figures not taking accountability, not knowing how to accept the no's. We don't know how this Aries energy will play out. So I'm asking, if you don't have anything already set for new moon in Aries, that tonight you send a prayer to those victims of domestic violence, especially those Black women. I ask that you like pray over people who may have been triggered this week from the amount of domestic violence and essay violence that happened with with the new stuff about the Grape Academy. Um, I ask that you send up like candle, water, prayer, elevation. That when I say we can, yes, a lot is going on, but with Eros, the asteroid of love, also interacting with it along with Jupiter, we can also use it to our own thing. Anybody who knows me, I talk about power dynamics a lot. And this is how we use the energy around us to manifest. Manifesting is using the energy on the physical plane to the benefit of us. Especially with big Jupiter, it's gonna be like, now you're talking, because Jupiter doesn't necessarily want to amplify the bad. It's called, I call it Big Jupe, pretty boy, Big Jupe, the benefactor for a reason. Like we have to, although I get on, beef with Jupiter sometimes, but in Cancer, we can still use it to our benefit. We must continue although Chiron goes to Taurus this June, it'll go back into Aries for a bit and then back into Taurus again next year. We can really use this time for it to like help people realize the harm that we're doing to each other, especially those masculine figures, because they don't even know the harm they're doing to themselves. That's the scary part. And so I think with Jupiter going into Leo in June as well, we'll be able to shine a light, a more like light on the things, but also be able to find a little bit more joy. But we can't get to that if y'all don't start choking these men out. That's my nice way of saying it. Because y'all know I said already what I said. Is it the most politically correct thing to say? No, who cares? But I'm telling you what we need to kind of think, because sometimes at this point, we're gonna have to get as violent. We do also see. I'm gonna say one more thing, and this I'm gonna I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna try unless someone has a question. Um, I think we also are going to see more um, unalivings of themselves due to so much imbalance. Sometimes when it's this much imbalance amongst a group, they can self implode. So what's also happening is their partners are catching it, or the very young ones, a lot of the Gen Z babies and older Gen Alpha, because I think Gen Alphas the oldest ones are 16 now. They're self imploding. We're gonna call it that. So don't be surprised. Like I said, like the best thing you can do, I think one is to send prayers up to those victims. You could go and start doing some prayer work about we've already been doing the work of dismantling these systems. um I lost my train of thought like that. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that out loud then. But I think this is a new moon where as the collective, we can collectively do some things. And like I said, tonight I will be talking with my spiritual court, or if there are specific rituals that I can share with the public to help. Because I think this is hitting, especially Black women, in a space when Black women tend to date more within their ethnic and racial groups than anybody. But like I said in the beginning, sadly, it's the sociology of it all that your groups, you're more likely to experience violence from the people around you than anybody else. We just seen more of a G side and fem side, due to the current systems that be, that is rooted in American imperialism. So, any questions before we head out? It was just really quick. I just want to kind of like talk about what the astrology is saying and what we've missed. I think one other astrologer kind of talked about the increase with women and children. I have a reading for the collective that I did on my IG page about men, you need to mind your anger, or men need to mind your emotions. Women be protected, children be protected. And that is sadly the world we live in. But luckily, we do have signs from above that try to give us a warning. And we do have history. So sad. So sorry if this is a little bit morbid, but I just feel like, okay, like let me jump on live. Now, what's coming up that we need to get in gear for? Taurus season, maybe a little bit messy. I'll talk about that next week. I think next Wednesday I'll be going live for Taurus season reading. So be here for that. All my readings are open. All of them are open. Right now, the most popular one is the spiritual court reading. So if you feel like you need to know who on your spiritual court and how to move, that is fine. Funny. But behind that is love readings are most popular right now. I love that too. Shout out to Eero. Shout out to Jupiter and Cancer. Um, and then I have my foundational mediumship course, which we'll probably talk more in depth about what I'm talking about here on the course on Saturday. Today's the last day to sign up, but I have a May class available. So check the link in my link tree for if you want to. I say that class is for anybody who want to be nosy, period. It's not just for mediums. Cause baby, got to get everybody together, honey. Um, New moon in Aries is very potent. You can use it for yourself. You can use it for the collective. You can use it for yourself to push things forward, propel you forward, if it's meant for you to do that. You can use it for grief. I think it's good for grief to release some things with fire, by the way. If you like to play with fire, candle magic, incense, or you want to write something down and then light it a flame outside, you can do that this new moon. It's great for it. Because I lit something on fire earlier. So that is what I have for right now. I'll probably talk a little bit more about this eventually on Patreon. I don't know. I'm dropping certain stuff on Patreon a lot already. So, but yeah, I will see y'all back on live next week. Follow me on IG here, Blue Sky, Threads. That's where I'll be. But I will be trying to pay attention a lot more to what's going on to help y'all out when we are in times like this. So, like I said, next week we'll talk more about Taurus season and about big Uranus moving to Gemini, what that means, and why we're feeling it. The negative side of Uranus and Taurus. But yeah, that's all I get. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully this didn't get you down too much, but maybe it brings some more understanding to what the heck is going on. But okay, y'all. I will see y'all again soon. Bye.